And welcome back, Julius here. Once again, we continue with our learning on Microsoft Excel. And today, ladies and gentlemen, in my last video, I did a section of this question. If you remember very well, there's a section of this question which we did using this particular data here. If you will be able to remember using this data, in my very last uploaded video, you'll be able to see a recording of the same for this particular data here. But now, due to many requests I've received, many people have actually requested that I just do the whole question, because this data I extracted it from a sample question of BDA paper, which was done in August 2024. So those who are doing their CPA exams, this was a paper tested by Kasneb in BDA August 2024. So the specific question is question number 25. So we're going to do the whole question, and then we shall see how to move on next. Now, the question reads, owing to public outcry on the implementation of various projects across the country, the National Treasury of your country has provided data relating to projects implementation in the past 4 years. The dataset comprises project focus areas in column A through B, bank data on projects in columns E through G, projects detailed breakdown in column J onwards. An economic watchdog organization has approached you to help analyze the data for purposes of making meaningful deliberations on the data provided. The data is the next Excel sheet labeled question 25 data. So this next Excel sheet here called question 25 data. You're told to note that the bank statement amounts column shows the disbursement to the project's ID. So we're required here, A, using relevant formulas of functions, Roman 1, fill the appropriate data to the blank columns M, R, U, V, and W. That was awarded 5 marks. Roman 2, calculate the number of power connectivity projects implemented, the total amount of money disbursed by the National Treasury, and the average budget of social services projects in Nandi County. That's a total of 3 marks. Then B, create pivot summaries of the budget allocated per project, the amounts disbursed per project focus item, and the project cost and administration cost trend showing years and months. That's a total of 6 marks. C, with the summaries in B above, create appropriate visualizations with the below focus message. Number 1, the budget allocated per project comparison. 2, the amounts disbursed per project focus item proportionality. And 3, project cost and administration cost trend showing years and months, which should be a trend. This video is very appropriate for CPA students who are taking BDA. However, it's not only fixed to that. Any professional who is using Excel and is eager to learn about Excel functions, this video is for you. Because there are many Excel functions that we are going to learn in this video as we handle the questions. Let's go through the questions. So we have been told that the dataset comprises of project focus areas in column A through B. So if we come to the data itself, column A through B, this one represents what? The project focus areas. So if we have a project relief aid, its focus area is social services, medical focus area social services, farm tools and implements focus area agricultural extension, power connectivity focus area is infrastructure, a project on seeds and fertilizer focus area is agricultural extension, road construction infrastructure, affordable housing infrastructure, higher learning, education, researcher, education. And then bank data on the projects is on columns E through G. So column E through column G gives us the bank data. And if you look at these 3 columns, they are basically telling us the amounts that have been disbursed for each project together with the dates that the disbursement took place. So for instance, if you look at the project ID, PID 1857, the disbursement took place on the 21st of April 2023 with a total of 92,546. So this is simply the bank data, the total amount that the data has, that the bank has been able to disburse for the specific projects. And then we've been told that we have got projects detailed breakdown from column J onwards. So starting column J onwards over here, starting column J onwards, all through to column W, we have got the projects detailed breakdown. So what are we required to do? Question 1 actually required us to do what here? Using relevant formulas and functions, fill the appropriate data to the blank columns M, R, U, V, and W. So that's what we're going to do first here. So quickly, let's jump over through the data. So here we are on the data, and number one thing that we need to fill here is the disbursed amounts. We need to fill the column showing the disbursed amounts, that is column R. We need to fill column R, which is for the disbursed amounts, Now, if we look at this table here, we have the project ID, we have the date. First of all, allow me to format this one to be in date format. Let me just format them to be in date format. So I'll put it to short date like that. Good. So we have the project ID here. We have the date. We have the project itself. We have got the project focus. Oh, actually, you're supposed to start from here. The project focus. We have the financials, the county, the household impacted, the budget, disbursed amount, project cost, admin cost, disbursement balance, project variance, and the variance status. So there are so many things that you're supposed to find over there. Number one, we are supposed to find the project focus. If you'll recall, our question said clearly that the project focus is in columns A through B. The project focus is in columns A through B. The project focus is in columns A through B. Ladies and gentlemen, we want to extract data from this particular table here, that is column A through B, to this other table, which then will give us the project focus here. If we look at the two tables, there's only one common thing. In the table where we need to extract information to, we have the project ID, okay? Then sorry, not the project ID, but the project itself, right? Then in the table where we need to get information from, we also have the project. So basically, here, like for instance, you have this project known as what? Higher learning. If we make reference from the other table, a project on higher learning over here, a project on higher learning, its focus is education. So that means that what we should have here is simply education. Here, we should have education. We should have education here. We should have education. We should have education. Then this also higher learning, it will still be education. That will still be education. Then this is seeds and fertilizer. If we make reference from the other table, seeds and fertilizer is what? Agricultural extension. So that means that over here, we're supposed to have agricultural extension. We are supposed to have here agricultural extension. We should have here agricultural extension. But if you look at this, this is just too much work if you are going to go that order. And therefore, the most appropriate thing to do here is just to learn how to use functions in order to solve this problem. And if you look at the arrangement of the data with what you want to do here, the appropriate function for us is a special category of functions known as lookup functions. So here, we are going to make use of lookup functions. Remember that Excel gives us different categories of lookup functions. Number one, we have what we call the VLOOKUP function is an example of lookup function. Number two, we have the HLOOKUP function. Number three, we have the index function. We have the match function, and then we have the XLOOKUP function. The 5 categories. Remember that index and match needs to be used together in case they will be used as lookup functions. So in this case here, we are going to employ the HLOOKUP function, and reason being, if you look at the table where we want to extract the data from, the table is aligned vertically. The table is aligned vertically, and therefore we will make use of the VLOOKUP function. This table is aligned vertically, and therefore we make use of the VLOOKUP function. Yeah. So quickly, let's jump into it. So this will be equals to VLOOKUP. So even before you continue to use any Excel function, this is something that I've always said many times. If you are watching my video for the very first time, I keep saying Excel gives you instructions actually on how a function, or rather what a function does. If you look at the VLOOKUP function, what does Excel tell us? The VLOOKUP function looks for a value in the leftmost column. Looks for a value in the leftmost column of a table, and then returns a value in the same row from a column you specify. Ladies and gentlemen, lookup functions is that you always need to have what we call the lookup value. So when we say that Excel looks for a value in the leftmost column, then what we mean is that your lookup value must always be in the leftmost column of your table. All right. Your lookup value must always be on the leftmost column. Maybe I will do another video later on talking about the same. So for now, let's solve this problem. Always be guided by these inputs here. I've always said this many times, always be guided by these inputs here. Never guess Excel inputs. If you look at the VLOOKUP function, we have different inputs. Number one, we have the lookup value. Number two is the table array. Number four is column index number. And finally, we have the range lookup. Just before we continue, the lookup value, ladies and gentlemen, this is the common identifier between the two tables. That is what we call the lookup value. What we want to use in extracting information from both tables is what we call the lookup value. Then we have the table array. The table array is where we want to get the information from. That is the table array, where we want to get the information from. Then we have the column index number. The column index number is the column in the table array that contains information that we are looking for. All right. The column index number is the column in the table array that contains information which we are looking for. Then finally, we have the range lookup, which is simply whether we want an approximate match or we want an exact match. In this case here, we said that the common identifier between our two tables is the project. If we look at this table and the table where we want to get the information from, the only common identifier is the project. And therefore, ladies and gentlemen, our lookup value here will be the project. Our lookup value will be the project. Our lookup value will be the project, comma. Then we have table array. Where do we want to extract information from? We want to extract information from table in column A through B. So for the table array, I'll come over, then I will just highlight the whole table like that. I will highlight the whole table like that. I will highlight the whole table like that. Well, if you look at this table, we are told here that our data is already formatted in the form of a table, and therefore there is no need for locking. Suppose this was just a normal range, then we would lock. But for this case, we'll not lock here. And therefore, that means that you need to clearly know cell referencing. I will also do another video talking about cell referencing so that you can understand better. In this case, we don't need that because our data is already in the form of a table. I'll put a comma. Then next we have the column index number. I said the column index number is the column number from the table array that contains the information we are looking for. What are we looking for? We are looking for the project focus. From this particular table here, project focus is in column number 2. Ladies and gentlemen, please take note. When using lookup functions, when asked for column index number or row index number, we ignore the logical naming of columns in Excel and rows in Excel. And then we just do a manual count. This is the table which we have highlighted. It has 2 columns. In the first column, we have the project, and the second column, we have the project focus. From this table, we are looking for project focus, and project focus is in column number 2, and therefore column index number, we type 2, comma, then range lookup, that will be exact match. Always use false exact match. Once done, just execute that, and there we go. So once you're done, you'll just autofill by double tapping over there. And now we have filled all the information needed. We have filled all the information needed. We have filled all the information needed for the project focus. We move to the next, which is the disbursed amounts. We move to the next, which is the disbursed amounts. We move to the next, which is the disbursed amounts. Disbursed amounts. So once again here, we want to get the disbursed amounts, and the disbursed amounts are in the bank data. The disbursed amounts, we get them from the bank data. This one here, we get the disbursed amounts from the bank data. We get the disbursed amounts from the bank data. We get the disbursed amounts from the bank. Once again, let's look at the 2 tables. If you look at the 2 tables, we have got 2 common items. Number 1 is the date, and number 2 is the project ID. Ladies and gentlemen, when determining the project ID, don't just pick any value as your as your lookup value. When determining your lookup value, don't just pick any value as your lookup value. Look for something which is unique. We cannot pick the date as our lookup value because we can have different disbursements happening on the same date. And therefore, the date cannot be our lookup value. And therefore, the only common unique identifier which we have between the 2 tables is the project ID. So here, we are going to use the project ID as our lookup value. We are going to use the project ID as our lookup value here because it is the common identifier between the two tables. Let's go. Once again here, we are also going to use the VLOOKUP function for the disbursed amount. So here will be equals to VLOOKUP, VLOOKUP, VLOOKUP. Our lookup value we have agreed is the project ID. Our lookup value is the project ID. Our lookup value is the project ID, comma. Then table array, we said this is where we want to extract the information from. So we are getting the information from over here. We are getting the information from here. We are getting the information from here. Now, somebody is seated somewhere and this is how they keep highlighting their data. Look at this. We have a very big data here. We have a very big data here. And someone is highlighting their data like this. No, if you look at my videos, there's a video that I had done already, which is showing you the keyboard shortcuts, which is showing the keyboard shortcuts for highlighting. So if you want to highlight this data because it's a very big data, what we'll do, I'll just click on the project ID here. From my keyboard, I'll hold on Control, hold on Shift, then page right arrow, and then page down arrow, like that. And we have already highlighted our entire data. We have already highlighted our entire data here. So don't go scrolling manually. Don't go scrolling manually. Don't go scrolling manually. Yeah, so that's our table array. Once again, this data is also in tabular format, and therefore I will not struggle to lock. I will not struggle to lock. So I'll just put a comma. I'll just put a comma. Then next is column index number. So from this table, once again, we have 3 columns: project ID, date, and the disbursed amounts. What are we looking for? We are looking for the disbursed amounts. Is in which column? 1, 2, 3. So column index number will be 3. Column index number will be 3. And then we have the range lookup, which is exact match. We have the range lookup, which is exact match. We have the range lookup, which is exact match. Once done, please execute that. All right, and there we go. Then we just autofill the information. 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 Great. So upon autofilling the information, you realize that there are some projects which are returning for us some error, #NA. The reason we are getting this #NA, should you get such an error, ladies and gentlemen, it doesn't mean that your function is wrong. It just means that disbursements have not happened for these particular projects because we have got so many projects here. Some, the amounts for those for such projects have been disbursed, but for some of them, disbursement has not taken place. And therefore, we just want to edit this. We just want to edit this so that where we have an error, we want Excel to display for us a value of 0 instead of having #NA. All right. So instead of having #NA, we want Excel to show us that, look, no disbursement has taken place there. And therefore, we just want an output of what? Of 0. So to do that, we are going to fix this error. And there are 2 ways to do it. Number 1, we can use the if not applicable function. This one, if not applicable, like this, if not applicable. Or number 2, we can also use the if error function. But I also want to let you know of something. We have the if not applicable function and the if error function. You should take note that the if not applicable function only solves this error of if not applicable, and not any other error that you have on Excel. But the if error function solves any type of error that you have on Excel. So here, I will use the if error function, though if not applicable can also work here. So I will use if error. So you just fix the if error function here. So if error, and then value is the output of the VLOOKUP function, comma, and then we have the value if error. So if it gives me an error, I want a 0. If it gives me an error, I want a 0. If it gives me an error, I want a 0. I want a 0 instead of the error output. I want a 0 instead of the error output here. So I'll just execute that, and then once again, I will re-autofill. Great. So now you see, where we had the error of #NA, we're now having zeros. Where we had the error of #NA, we're now having 0. So that is how you fix errors in your functions and formulas. Should you get any errors in your functions and formulas, please make use of the if error function or the if NA function to solve that particular error. Great. Let's move to the disbursement balance. But before I do the disbursement balance, I'd like to mention that here we have the disbursed amounts, and we have also computed here the project focus. In both computations, we have used the VLOOKUP function. But ladies and gentlemen, other lookup functions, like for instance, the index and match and XLOOKUP function, can also solve these problems. I will do a separate video later, which will be talking about the XLOOKUP function and the index and match function. Probably it will be the same data that we'll use in solving those problems. Let us continue. So make sure that you subscribe to keep yourself updated when I post such videos. We have the disbursement balance here. We have the disbursement balance. We have the disbursement balance. We have the disbursement balance. We have disbursement balance that you want to compute. Now, the disbursement balance, this is simply what has remained. We have got some amounts that have been disbursed, but for some projects, the disbursement has not taken place. Okay. Now, this is what was budgeted for. This is what was budgeted for. This is what was budgeted for. All right. That is what was budgeted for. That's what was budgeted for. Okay. So if this was what was budgeted, and then this has been the amount that has been disbursed. So out of a budget of 15 million, only 2 million has been disbursed. So to get then the disbursement balance, we'll take the budget minus the disbursed amounts. We'll take the budget minus the disbursed amounts. We'll take the budget minus the disbursed amounts will give us the disbursement balance. The budget minus the disbursed amounts will give us the disbursement balance. That will give us the disbursement balance. That will give us the disbursement balance. That will give us the disbursement balance, all right? And then we execute that. And there we have the disbursement balances. We have the disbursement balances over there. We have the disbursement balances. Then we go to the project variance. We go to the project variance. We go to the project variance. And to get the project variance, this one we did in our last video. So we're going to take the budget minus the project cost minus the admin cost. We're going to take the budget minus the project cost minus the admin cost here. That will give us the project variance. 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 Then finally, we do the variance status. 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 The variance status. The variance status. And for the variance status, normally, a variance can either be adverse. A variance can either be adverse. It can be favorable. It can be favorable, or we can have no variance. We can have no variance. Like I said in my previous video, we did say that variance is simply the difference between what you budgeted for vis-a-vis what you actually ended up spending. That's a variance. What did you budget for? And then what have you ended up spending? Okay, what did you budget for and what have you ended up spending? That is the variance. That's the variance. Now, we're going to say that if our variance is more than 1, not even more than 1, more than 0. If our variance is more than 0, then it means that we have what? Remember that we have to compute the variance, we have taken the budget minus the project cost minus the admin cost. And therefore, it means that if our budget is greater than 0, that means that we budgeted for more and we spent less. And therefore, we have what? A favorable variance. We have a favorable variance. If we get our variance to be less than 0, that means it's a negative. It means that we did spend more than we actually budgeted for, and so we're going to have an adverse variance. But in the circumstance where we have a 0 variance, it means that we have what? We have no variance because we just spent that exactly which we had budgeted for. So for the variance status, this will be equals to, we are going to use the if function. For that case, we're going to use the if function. Remember that if is a conditional or logical function. If you are not aware how to use the if function, please watch my previous video to understand how to use the if function. So I'll say if, then logical test is that the variance is greater than 0. So if the variance is greater than 0, if the variance is greater than 0, comma, value if true. If indeed the variance is greater than 0, that means that we have a favorable variance. We have a favorable variance. I'll put favorable in quotations because it's a text input, comma. The next is value if false. If the variance is not greater than 0, then I want Excel to check the next condition. And the next condition is if the variance, once again, is equal to 0, comma, value if true. If indeed the variance is equal to 0, I want an output of what? No variance. I want an output of no variance. I want an output of no variance. I want an output of no variance, comma. Then value if false. That means if it doesn't fall within any of the previously given conditions, then that means that there is what? There is an adverse variance. 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 Yeah, I can just put adverse instead of adverse variance. There is an adverse variance. Then I will execute that. And there we go. Then I just autofill here. So those are the variance. Those are the variance status. Those are the variance states. Yeah, those are the variance states. That's the variance state. So that is how you are supposed to fill in that table, and then you have your 5 marks. That is how you're supposed to fill in the table. Then you have your 5 marks. That's how you're supposed to fill in the table. So we are done with A, Roman 1. We are done with A, Roman 1. Then we move to Roman 2. And Roman 2 says, calculate the number of power connectivity projects implemented. Calculate the number of power connectivity projects implemented. Calculate the number of power connectivity projects implemented. Okay. So you want to calculate the number of power connectivity projects implemented. If you come to our list here, we have a number of projects. Okay. We have a number of projects here. We have a number of projects here. And the only project that we are interested in is power connectivity. That's the only project we're interested in, the power connectivity. Okay. So out of all these projects, we only want to count power projectivity. So which function shall we use? Remember, we want to count, but not everything. We want to count based on a condition. And therefore, we'll use the primary function for getting the number of power connectivity projects, which is count. But then because it's based on a condition, we shall merge it with the condition of function if. So we shall have count if. What does it do? It counts the number of cells within a range that meets the given condition. That's it. The range, I will go to the data, then I will highlight all the projects. For the range, I will highlight all the projects. Remember, not to do the manual highlight like we did. Remember, not to do the manual highlight like we did. Like we said. So we say that you do what? You just do Control Shift Page Down. To highlight all these projects, it is Control Shift Page Down. Control Shift Page Down. Yeah. So that's the range, comma. Then criteria, we want power connectivity. So I'm just going to click on any power connectivity within here. I like making reference because of accuracy, because you may type, but you type the wrong format. You type in the wrong format, or maybe in a wrong spelling, so that you end up having some errors in your output, so that you end up having some errors in output here. So I like when I make a reference. So that's it. Then I'll just execute that. So that gives us 630. So in total, we have 630 number of power connectivity projects which have been implemented. Then number two, we have the total amount of money disbursed by the National Treasury. Number two, we have the total amount of money disbursed by the National Treasury. The total amount of money disbursed by the National Treasury. So if you look at this data, we have different financials here. We have different financials, like for instance, you have got the PPP financials. We have donor partners, and then we also have the GOK. Okay, we also have the GOK. We also have the GOK. So what we want here is the total amount of money that has been disbursed by the National Treasury. And of course here, the National Treasury is the government of Kenya. The National Treasury is the government of Kenya, okay? The National Treasury is the government of Kenya. So you want to compute the total amount of money that has already been disbursed, but not by everyone. I mean, not by all the financials, by the government of Kenya only, by the government of Kenya only. So in that case, we are going to use the sum if function. So you'll say equal sum if. Then number one is the range. Number one is the range. Then number two is the criteria. Then finally, we have the sum range. Before I even make any execution, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to let you know of something. Anytime you are using an Excel function, and then you find the function asking you for number one, range, and then number two, criteria. If the first input is a range, and then the next input is asking you for criteria, please take note that the criteria must come from the range. Okay? The criteria must come from the range. The criteria must come from the range. So you want to get the total amount of money which has been disbursed by the National Treasury. So I'll go back to my data, and then for the range, I'm going to highlight all the financials. For the range, I'm going to highlight all the financials. I will highlight all the financials like that, comma, and then criteria. From all these financials, I don't want to get all the financials. I only want to get those that have been disbursed by the National Treasury, which is what? The government of Kenya, GOK. So that is going to be my criteria. That is going to be my criteria, comma. Then sum range, what do I want to get? The total amount of money disbursed. The total amount of money disbursed. So for the sum range, I will go to the disbursement amounts. I will go to the disbursed amounts, then highlight all the disbursed amounts. I will highlight all the disbursed amounts. Remember to use Control Shift Page Down. Do not highlight manually. You will get tired. Okay? So I will do that, then execute. So this is the total amount of money that has been disbursed by the National Treasury. This is the total amount of money which has been disbursed by the National Treasury. That's the total amount of money which has been disbursed by the National Treasury, which has been disbursed by the National Treasury. Good. And then next we need, so we'll insert a blank row here. Remember, to insert a blank row, I said the keyboard shortcut is Control Shift plus. That is for inserting both a blank row and a blank column. Control Shift plus, Control Shift plus, yes. Control Shift plus. Now, the average budget of social services projects in Nandi County. The average budget of social services projects in Nandi County. Now here, you'll notice that we have two conditions. Number one, we have the condition for social services only. We want to get the average budget for social services only, but not all social services in Nandi County only. Social services in Nandi County only. Remember that the goal is to get the average budget. Of course, when you talk about average, it is what? The mean. So we are going to use the primary function average. But because we do not want to get the average of everything, we only want to get the average of social services. And in Nandi County, we have more than two conditions to be met. In this case, we are going to use the average ifs function. Remember, we have the average function, which gets the mean of everything. We have the average if, which is used to get the mean where we have only one condition to be met. And then we have the average ifs, which is used to get the mean where we have one or more conditions to be met. If you read the average ifs function, it tells you that it finds the average for the cells specified by a given set of conditions or criteria. That's it. Number one is the average range. What do we want to get? The average over the average budget of social services. So then the average range will be the budgets. The average range will be the budgets, I will highlight all the budgets. That's the average range. All the budgets will be my average range, comma. Then next we have criteria range 1. Criteria range 1. Anytime you see a function asking you for a range, I need to mention this. Anytime you see a function asking you for a range, please take note, I have always said this many times, a range or an array must be a collection of cells, all right? A range or an array is a collection of cells. So here, we have two criteria ranges. The first criteria range is the counties, and the second one is the services. Because we want to get social services in Nandi. Ladies and gentlemen, the decision on whether to start with which criteria range is up to you. It doesn't matter which criteria range you start with. The most important thing that you need to take note of is that when you start with, let's say, for instance, the projects as your criteria range 1, then it means that the criteria 1 must come from your criteria range 1. If you decide to use the project focus, for example, as your criteria range 2, then criteria 2 must come from your criteria range 2. So it doesn't matter. We want to get the average budget of social services. So I will highlight all the project focus. So I'll just click on the first one, hold on Control from my keyboard, hold on Shift, and then the page down arrow like that. Then the page down arrow. So that is my criteria range 1. I'll put a comma. Then next I have criteria 1. From this range, what do I want? I don't want to get for everything. I don't want to get for all the project focus items. I only want to get for social services. So criteria 1, out of this range, I'm only interested in social services. I will select the social services. I will select social services. I will select social services. I will select social services, comma. Then we have criteria range 2. Next is in Nandi County. So I'm going to highlight all the counties. So I'll click on the first county over there. Then I do Control, Shift, page down, comma. That is my criteria range 2. Then criteria 2, from all the counties, I only need what? Nandi. From all the counties, I only need Nandi County. I only need Nandi County. So I'll come over here and then I select Nandi. I'll come and select Nandi as my criteria 2. I'll select Nandi as my criteria 2. I'll select Nandi County as my criteria 2. And that's it. I will just come over here and then execute that. And there we go. So this is the average budget of social services projects implemented in a Nandi County. That's the average budget of social services projects implemented where? In Nandi County. Implemented in Nandi County. Implemented in Nandi County. Implemented in Nandi County. So as easy as that, you already have your 8 marks. Then part B says, create pivot summaries of number 1, the budget allocated per project. Create pivot summaries of number 1, the budget allocated per project. So this one wants us to create what? Pivot tables. It really needs us to create pivot tables. Yes, number one, we need the budget allocated per project. We need the budget allocated per project. So I'll just add some space here where I will create my pivot table. I'm just going to create some small space here. So I need the budget allocated per project, the budget allocated per project. So I'll come over back here to my data. I'll come over to my data. I'll come over to my data. I'll come back to my data. I'll come back to my data. Then what I will do is just select the entire data. I will select the entire data right from project ID. So I'll do Control, Shift, page right arrow, then page down arrow like that. I'll select the entire data. I'll select the entire data. I'll select the entire data by doing Control, Shift, page right arrow, and then page down arrow to highlight the entire data. Then once done, I'll move to the Insert tab. I'll move to the Insert tab, Insert, and then Pivot Table. Insert, then Pivot Table. Insert, Pivot Table. Insert, Pivot Table. So I've already highlighted the data, no problem. The only thing that I need to choose is to choose where you want the pivot table to be placed. In case you had not highlighted your data, then in this space here of table orange, you would have highlighted your entire data. So I'll go ahead and choose where I want the pivot table to be placed. And I don't want it in a new worksheet. I want it in an existing worksheet. So I'll select existing worksheet. I'll select existing worksheet. Then I come over here to location, then move to this sheet, question number 25. I'll move to question number 25 sheet over there. Then I select, I want to put it here. I want to put it here. So I'll just click on that blank space there. I'll just click on that blank space there. You just click on any cell. You just click on any cell. You just click on any cell. If you put it in a new worksheet, you'll be forced to transfer it after you are done with the question back to this new sheet. So that's why I'm putting it in an existing worksheet. Yeah. I'll just click OK. I'll just click OK. And there we go. So here, once you get there, you realize that you have two pens. You have the pen to the left formed and also the pen to the right. So to the right, we are going to select how to form our pivot table. But to the left, we are supposed to do what? That is where our pivot table report will form. To the left, that is where our pivot table report will form. To the left, that's where our pivot table report will form. So what are we supposed to do here? We need to get the budget allocated per project. So two variables involved there. Number one is budget, and number two is the projects. So I'll take my projects, then I put it to the rows. I'm not explaining about the issue of pivot tables because I already have a video explaining the aspect of data visualization. So if you have not watched the video, just walk through my channel, get a video talking about data visualization and dashboarding. You will understand how to use these different fields. So I'll take the project and put it to rows. And then next, I have the budgets where I'll take the budget and put it to values. I'll take the budget and put it to values. Just to remind you quickly that we only use the values field for variables which involve mathematical operations on them. And there we go. We have our pivot table created. So this is what the examiner wanted, the budget allocated per project. So this was the total budget allocated per project. That was the budget allocated per project. And we are done with that. Then we move to the second one. We move to the second one. We move to the second question. So I'll add more space here I want to create the pivot table report. Then instead of starting it afresh, I'll just copy this. I'll just copy this one. Then I come and paste it. Instead of starting the work afresh, I'll just copy, then paste it there. Remember that you need some time-saving tricks, okay? You need some time-saving tricks, and therefore, it's very important to know how to navigate through Excel and how to use your time very well, You need to utilize the little time that you have so that you finish all the questions and pass the examination. So here, we need the amounts disbursed per project focus item. So I'll just go with what I have here. Instead of project, I'll just get it out. Then I have the project focus put here on the rows. And then I need the amounts disbursed, yeah? So here, instead of budget, I'll get out budget. Then I bring in the amounts disbursed. So where's the disbursed amounts here. So I'll have disbursed amounts put to values. And there we go. We have our table. There we go. We have our pivot table. That's what the examiner wanted there. That is what the examiner wanted there. That is simply what the examiner wanted there. Then next, finally, we have, let me insert a space there. Finally, we have the project cost and administration cost trend showing years and months. The project cost and administration cost trend showing years and months. Do not forget that what you are creating is a pivot tables, okay? We are creating pivot tables. So this one, it should show what? It should show years and months. It should show years and months. So let me just get it clear here, okay? So once again, I'll just copy this. And then I come and paste it here. Okay. So we need the project cost and administration cost. Project cost and administration cost. So I'll get away the project focus. I'll also get away the sum over disbursed amounts. Then I will have the project cost. So here I have project cost. I'll put it to the values field. I'll take the project cost and put it to the values field. I'll take the project cost and put it to the values field. And then admin cost, I will also put the same in the values field. So all those two needs to be in the values field because there are mathematical operations to be performed on them, yeah? So we wanted the project cost and administration cost trend showing years and months. So where's the date? Where's the date? Where's the date? Where's the date? So we need here the disbursement date. We need the disbursement date. Yeah, here we have date. Here we have date. So I'll just pick up on date and put it to what? Put it to rows. I'll pick up on date and then I put it to rows. I'll pick up on date and then I put it to rows. So if your data is formatted very well, your date should be able to clearly give the hierarchy of year, quarter, months, and date. So the examiner only asks us showing years and months. So I don't need date. I'll do away with date. Okay. I don't need quarters. I will do away with what? With the quarters. So that I remain with years and months. So that I remain with what? Years and months. I remain with years and months. So now if you want to make this perfect, what you can do, you can just expand this. So you can just go to pivot table analyze. You can go to pivot table analyze. Then here on the date, we need to click on this expand field button, but it's not active. So first of all, I'll just do that. Then I say expand like that. So that's it. You can see we have got a trend there. You can see we have a trend there. You can see we have a trend there. Let's try to see if there is maybe another way we can put it. So I'll just minimize it once again. I'll minimize it once again. Then what I can do, I can just take the months. Let me try put the months to the columns. Yes, like that. I think that's okay now. That's okay now. That's okay now. That's now okay. So you can just play around with the data. You can just play around with the data to get the best presentation that you want. Okay, you just play around with the data and then you get the best representation of the data as you want it. Yeah, you can also take the years and put them there. You can also take the years and also put them there. You can also take the years. You can also take the years and put them where? You can also take the years and put them to the columns. Yeah. So whichever method that you're going to use will be okay. Whichever method that you're going to use will be okay. So long as you are able to clearly display the trend in terms of years and months. So long as you are able to clearly display the trends in terms of years and months. Yeah. You can also take back years to the rows field so that you have your data in that order. Yeah. So if it is represented in this order, then basically you just need to expand by clicking on this plus icon beside the month, and then it will display the years. Yeah. So you see January 2020, total sum of the project cost was we can format these ones to be comma delimited so that we're able to understand them very well. Let me just give them the commas so that we can understand it well, so that it is easier to read. Yeah. So that it is easier to read. Yeah. So there we go. So in January 2020, we had a total of 79, 578, 969, 2021, that's it, 2022, that's it, 2023, that's it, 2024, and all that, yeah? So that is simply what the examiner needed there. That is simply what the examiner needed there, yeah? And then finally, part C, we are being told that with the summaries in B above, create appropriate visualizations with the below focus message. Number one, the budget allocated per project. We need to create a comparison visualization. This one requires your knowledge on the use of different types of charts in Excel. Different charts are used for different purposes. Once again, go and watch my video talking about data visualization. You will understand when do you need to use a pie chart, when do you need to use a line chart, when do you need to use a bar chart, when do you need to use a radar chart, when do you need to use a combo chart, and many more. So in this case, you're being told to do a comparison visualization. The moment the examiner mentions a comparison and you come and put something like a pie chart, please note you are automatically wrong. The moment the examiner mentions a comparison and you come and put something like a line chart, you are automatically wrong. So here we need to use a bar chart. Okay, we need to use a bar chart for comparison. So you can either use a bar chart or a column chart. So the budget allocated per project. This was the first question that we did. Budget allocated per project. So just come and click over onto your chart. Just come and click onto your chart. Just come and click onto your chart. Click onto your chart. Click onto your chart. Then come to pivot table analyze. go to pivot table analyze, go to pivot table analyze, go to pivot table analyze, then select the option pivot chart. Just click anywhere within your chart, click anywhere within your pivot table, click anywhere within your pivot table, go to pivot table analyze, then select the option pivot chart. Select the option pivot chart. Even by default, Excel just gives us what? A column chart, yeah? So we can use that, or we can use a bar chart, yeah? You can either use a column chart, or you can use a bar chart, because we're using it for what? Comparison. We're using it for comparison, yeah? So I think a bar chart will be appropriate for me in this case, yeah? So I'll just select the bar chart, then I say, okay. I'll select a bar chart, then I say, okay, and then make sure that you place it in the right place where it's supposed to be. So I'll just come and paste it here. I'll come and paste it here like that. So that's our chart. I can expand it a little bit because we have space, so I don't need to keep it fixed. I'll just expand it. I'll just expand it. I will expand it. Then I think some questions here are hidden, so I'll just add some space here. Then you shape it well, you scale it well, you make sure that you scale your chart very well. Good. And then of course I had also done a previous video which is showing you on how to do it, how to format your charts here. Though I'll do another video again showing you how to format your charts. Make sure that you do subscribe to this channel so that you keep getting updated on such items here. So I'll just do away with some things here very quickly. Things like, for instance, the chart title we need the chart title. I don't need the grid lines. In this case, I don't need the legend series. Yeah, that's the only thing that I need. That is the only thing that I need as it is. That's what I need as it is. Then I'll also go to design here. Not really design, but pivot chart analyze. And then I will do the field buttons. I will undo the field buttons here. Yeah, so that's it. So the examiner said that we label it as what? Budget allocated per project. So we'll change this. Instead of total, I will give it a title, budget allocated per project. Like that. The budget allocated per project. Yeah. If you want your chart to be maybe formatted in some order, like you can see here, we have got this chart and then this longer than the previous one that we have, this even longer than the other one now, this shorter than the other one and all that. If you want them to be in some order, maybe descending or ascending, then basically it just involves formatting your pivot table, yeah? You just come here and then onto your pivot tables, you'll just right click anywhere on your pivot tables, then you go to sort and then you say sort maybe smallest to largest or sort largest to smallest. So if I say sort largest to smallest, that's what I'm going to have. And then automatically that also changes our pivot table. Okay, that also changes our pivot table summary. Yeah. So you see, it's now well presented. However, you're in the examination room, and therefore, if you have time, you can do such formattings. If not, if the examiner did not say that you do such formatting, please just go ahead with your work. Yeah, just go ahead with your work. Yeah. So we are done with that. Then we move to the second one. So if you see these hashtags, it's just because of space. You just need to expand your column. Yeah, you just need to expand your column like that. Yeah, that needs not to scare you. The second one, we need the amounts disbursed per project focus item, and this should show proportionality. All right, so I'll just add that over there. Then we need the amounts disbursed per project focus item showing proportionality. The moment you see proportionality, that is a pie chart. So a pie chart is used for proportionate visualization. So this comes from our pivot table number 2. So I'll go back to my pivot table number 2. Pivot table 2, this one over here. I'll just click anywhere within the pivot table. Then I'll move to pivot table analyze. Then I click on the option pivot chart. We have been told proportionality. Please do not insert a column chart. A column chart is not used for proportional visualization. We use instead a pie chart for proportional visualization. So select pie chart. So that's what I'm going to use. Then I just say, okay. Then I say, okay. Then next, I'll put it in the right place where it's supposed to be. Good. So that's our chart showing proportional visualization. That's our chart showing proportional visualization. Yeah, if you like, you can put the data labels like that. In that order, yeah, you can just put the data labels, no problem. Then you can just come here and then you say, okay, or you can also format the type of chart that you want. If you go to style, you'll get different types of charts here. You'll get different types of charts. So you can select the one which you want. You can select the one that you want. You can select the one that you want here. You can select the one that you want. You can select the one that you want here. I'll just leave it as it is. I'll just leave it as it is. Here we need the key, so it's very important. So I'll just select the chart once again, then move to pivot chart analyze, and then I do away with the field buttons, remove that area. Then I change the title to be what here? Amounts disbursed per project focus item. Amounts disbursed per project focus item. The amounts disbursed per project focus item. Amounts disbursed per project focus item. The amounts disbursed per project focus item. That's it. Amounts disbursed per project focus item. The amounts disbursed per project focus item. So that's what the question required. That's what the question required. That's what the question required. And then finally, project cost and administration cost trend showing years and months. And of course, it should be a trend visualization. So that's the last chart that we had. So I'll just come over here, click on my last chart here. I'll come and click on my last chart. I'll come and click on my last chart. I'll come. Sorry. So I'll come and click on my last chart here. Then I go to pivot table analyze and then pivot chart. Pivot table analyze, then pivot chart. And because it needs a trend, that will be a line chart. Because it needs a trend, that will be line chart. That will be line chart. That will be a 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 line chart here. So I'll just select a line chart. Then once done, I'll just come and say, okay, I will select a line chart. Then once done, I will come and say, okay, then I take it to the right place where it's supposed to be. So I'll just move with it down here, in the last place here. The moment you're told a trend, automatically it is a line chart. The moment you're told a trend, automatically it is what? A line chart. It is a line chart. Automatically it is a line chart. It is simply a line chart. It is simply a line chart here. So you can see here we have the plus button, and then we also have the minus button here. If I click on the plus, it brings the years along. If I click on the plus, it brings the years along. Once I click on the plus sign, it brings the years along. So you can see that is it. That's it. That's it. That's it. So you can leave it as it is like that, or you can just minus to leave it in that order, because it has got this feature of the drill down. Yeah, it has the drill down feature. Yeah, so if I click on the plus sign, it will give me that type of graph, which is already expounded. It's already founded. Yeah, so we have January through December, and of course, each year giving us the data for 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, and 2024. Remember that we have 4 years in the data. We have 4 years in the data. We have 4 years in the data set. We have 4 years in the data set. We have 4 years in the data set. Yes. So this one, I'll give it a title. I'll give this one a title. There's no project title here. So let me just give chart title there. So the examiner said that this is representing what? Oh, sorry. I've not put it in the right place. Just a minute. Yeah, I didn't put this one in the right place. Let me just take it to the right place first. Let me take this chart to the right place. So I'll just cut it there. How have I navigated through this Excel sheet? Oh, okay. This is the problem here. Okay, I've expanded everything. So I need to minimize this like that, yeah. Then I come over here. So that's it. Then the last question is here. Yes, this is the last question. So I'll just come and paste the data here. That's the chart. That is the chart. I'll just come and paste it over there. I'll come and paste it there. Then I give the title. I'll give the title. This is representing the project cost and administration. Project cost and administration cost trend. Project cost and administration cost trend. The project cost and administration cost trend. The project cost and administration cost trend. The project cost and administration cost trend. And of course, that is the end of that particular question, and you get your 20 marks there. That's the end of that question, and you score your 20 marks. That's the end of that question, and that is what was required of you for you to get your 20 marks over there. Ladies and gentlemen, should you have any consultation needs regarding this particular paper, you are free to contact me on 0746 1333 06. If you want any consultations, you can contact me either on WhatsApp or you can give me a call on 0746133306. All right. So let's stop it there for now, and we meet in our next video. Thank you very much. Make sure that you subscribe. Make sure to comment on what you'd want me to do. Like this video and be sure to share with your friends. Let's grow together. Thank you very much. Let's meet in the next video. Bye-bye for now. Bye.